you might give us a blessing for the day. Thank you.
Very good, Your Worship. Kia ora, everybody. Whakataka te hau ki te uru, whakataka te hau ki te tonga, kia mā kine kuta, kia mā taratara ki tai. E hia ki ana te atakura, he tio, he hoka, he hauhu, haumi e, hui e, tai ki e.
Taiki. Very good. Kia ora, everyone. Good afternoon. Welcome to the Ordinary Council meeting of December, being slightly early because of that time of the year, being Tuesday the 10th of December. Just before I'd like to get underway, I'd just like to think about our fellow colleagues in the Whakatane District Council at this time. The recent events brought it home to us that we do sit on the same caldera here, so it's a timely reminder of how fragile things can be at times. So just ask for those deceased. Obviously, a lot of internationals from all parts of the world involved, as well as locals, and the fatalities. So it's very, very sad. And obviously we're a district of tourism operators as well, so we think about them today. But if we could just have a minute's silence, please, just to acknowledge or think about the ones that passed before us, and those injured too, that are critically injured, and the emergency services, all the people involved. Thank you. Okay, thank you, councillors, and good afternoon, members of the public. Nice to see you, and staff and members of the press. Great to have you with us this afternoon. Item 1, apologies. Look around the room, there's a full house, so that's all good. Item 2, conflicts of interest. Any conflicts of interest pertaining to the items this afternoon? Okay. Councillor Westerman.
I may have a conflict if I'm speaking in regard to the new council building. My mother does own 14 Ruapehu Street. The council leased the upstairs area. They pay $55,000 per year to Dorothy and Westman Property Solutions, where I am a 50% owner, do the management for Dorothy, and we charge 3% commission to her to collect that. It nets me about $200 and something a year. However, there is a lease renewal, it's probably in a couple of years, and I'd just like you to know I don't mind if the council stay or go. It won't interrupt my open-mindedness to the new council building. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Westerman. Any other conflicts of interest pertaining to all the items here today? No? Great. All right, item 3, confirmation of the minutes of the Ordinary Council meeting on the 26th of November. Yeah. Shani, did we have a typo here, did you say? Sorry? Yep. Okay, great. Thank you very much. Great. Any other typos or points of clarification on those minutes? Councillor Kingy. Oh, happy to move. Thank you very much. Moved by Councillor Kingy, seconded by Councillor Park. All those in favour, please say aye. Is against? Carried. Right. Item 4.1, consideration of the Turangi Tongariro Community Board recommendation, appointment to the Emergency Management Committee. Pretty straightforward. Yep. Moved by Councillor Kingy, seconded by Councillor Mack. All those in favour, please say aye. Is against? Carried. 4.2, road namings for Seven Oaks development in Kinloch. Scott, this was the subject of some discussion at the last meeting.
Mayor, can I just mention that we are the listing agent for Seven Oaks through my company, Bailey's. So if you feel I have a conflict, I'm happy to leave the room.
Sure. No, that's fine. Thank you very much, Councillor. My view would be it's on the naming of the road, so I'm sure that will have nothing to do with the sales. Well, it could do, you never know. But thank you very much for declaring that, Councillor Westman. Mr. Davenport.
So it feels like I was only just here yesterday, which...
Yes.
At the last council meeting, we got direction to go away and undertake some urgent consultation with Mokai in terms of the road name, and in particular the concerns that they hadn't been actively engaged with the consultant in terms of the recommendation of the road name Sherwood Way, and the fact that they were opposed to the name and the fact that it didn't reflect their Māori cultural heritage of the site. So that work has been undertaken by Dylan and yourself as the mayor, and the outcome of that is pretty much that there is still not adequate time really to undertake the consultation on this road, but that they're willing to accept the road name as it stands, with the undertaking that further consultation will be done with the developers down the track with, I think there's at least another 10 street names, some of the reserves from the developments, and also some discussion about storyboarding throughout the wider area of Kinloch to show the significance of that area to the local Hapu group.
Cool. Thanks very much, Davenport. You've eloquently put how the negotiation or the consultation went. That we have a positive way going forward for the future naming. So thank you very much for that, and hence why it's here today. Any other comments, Councillor Body?
Thank you, Bishop. This consultation, I think when we were here, the last meeting that started back in May, what undertaking has the Mokai Marae given that consultation going forward is going to be constructive and on time? Because I don't want to see us coming back here and say 12 months of another road needs naming, whether it be Maori or not. Is there any undertaking, guarantees been given that the consultation process will go smoothly?
Mr Taha.
So through you, Your Worship, the undertaking that was made was the volunteers. They will work as best they can to engage. They acknowledge that Phil was trying to as best he could, but ultimately they're a group of volunteers that are working to support a number of different developments. It's not just Seven Oaks, and there are other things that they have to also do. So they said they would try, but recognised also that it wasn't about them being all Māori or all based on their heritage, but there was an opportunity to tell stories connecting to the place of Kinloch before it was Kinloch.
Thank you very much. All right, so there we have it in front of us here to confirm the name of this this road or street or way. Sorry, moved by Councillor Park, seconded by Councillor Guy. All those in favour, please say aye. Those against, carried. Thank you very much. Thank you, Louise. Cool. 4.3 submission to Te Tura Whenua Māori Amendment Bill. Kara. We have Kara Scott in front of us. Good morning. Afternoon, Kara. Sorry. Nice to have you here. You've been here in front of the new council before? No, so just the new ones, obviously Councillor Kathy Guy, Councillor Kylie Leonard, Councillor Kylie Leonard, Councillor John Mack, Councillor Yvonne Westerman, and Councillor Kevin Taylor. So nice to have you here, Kara.
Thank you.
The floor is yours.
Thank you. Essentially, this item is to seek council endorsement for a submission that council offers is made on the proposed Te Tura Whenua Māori Act Amendment Bill. And essentially we're seeking the status quo as well as supporting positive changes to assist owners of Māori land in administering the Act. And yeah, I really just wanted to see your guidance if you want me to talk you through the background to that submission and the process, or if you'd like to take
the members would have read the thing. I suppose, are there any points of clarification or any queries out of it? Otherwise, I think it's pretty straightforward, Kara, unless you see any fishhooks anywhere or anything.
No. Probably just as an update further to putting in this submission, we've also been in touch with some of our iwi partners who weren't aware of the amendments as well, the proposed amendments. So we're just making sure we work with TPK as well to make sure that we're well aware of these sorts of changes, so we have time to talk about things before we submit.
Sure. Okay. Questions, Councillor Taylor.
Yeah.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just one comment I'd make is I appreciate the concern we've got that we don't saddle landowners with some unexpected consequences around particularly erosion protection and the costs and that. But I'm interested in what the feedback has been, and that we're not seen to be paternal or condescending in terms of our response to that. I understand the good intentions in that, but is the response you've had so far positive?
Yeah, we haven't had any responses because ours is a submission to the amendment bill. It'll be interesting to see what other submissions come through that, and we're certainly happy to report back if we come across anything like that. But yeah, certainly we're looking to support the status quo as opposed to seek to support changes that could be detrimental or impose more restrictions on Māori land. So no, I haven't had any specific feedback yet at this stage.
Yep. Any other questions of Kara? Okay, there's a that we endorse the submission, correct? Yep. Oh, which one is it? The all?
Question, this relates to section 301 of the, is that correct? Because down in the last recommendation, Taupo District Council seeks to retain the status quo for section 301, that is every other petition of land under that section to continue to comply with the provisions of the Resource Management Act. So there's no changes at all.
We're supporting no changes to that section.
And that's in line with what this document is saying from council. Thank you.
Status quo. Yep. All right, so the first part of the recommendation is what I intend to call for a mover for that. Over move things. Councillor Taylor, seconded by Councillor Williamson. That's the first part. Cool. All those in favour, please say aye. Those against? Carried. Thank you very much, Cara.
Thank you.
Nice to see you.
Thanks.
4.4, appointments to governance committees for the joint management agreements for Raukara, Te Araha and Te Kaupua Kanapanapa. Okay. I'm chair of the committee. I better get the name right. Good afternoon, Sue.
Good
Sue
afternoon.
Maver.
You'll be aware that Council has joint management agreements with Rokawa Settlement Trust and Te Arawa River Iwi Trust, and they set out how we work together to promote the restoration and protection of the health and well-being of the Waikato River. The JMAs require a governance committee to be appointed with equal numbers of council appointees and trust appointees. Now, this governance arrangement is not a committee of council and it's not bound by the requirements of the Local Government Act. At the committee meeting, the last one, which was the end of November, we decided not to appoint to those two governance committees because staff hadn't talked to Tarrant and hadn't talked to Rokawa about what numbers they wanted on that governance committee, so we didn't know how many to appoint ourselves. We've now done that. Rokawa has said they would like 3 members and Tarrant has said they would like 4 members. So we need 3 members from the council to go on the Rokawa governance committee and we need 4 members to go on the Tarrant committee. So in the agenda report, I think because last time we had 4 members already identified to go on the Tarrant governance committee, that they are named there, but we didn't have 3 to go on the Rokawa governance committee. So council will need to make a decision on that.
We indicated at that time who was who was keen to go in Rokawa?
I think there was only one identified, wasn't there, Tina, which was
Councillor Truman was the one, and may I suggest that seeing there a similar agreement in terms of the Waikato River, that it would make sense for the same members, less one, of course, to go on there due to the continuity.
Right. So what's the makeup of that trust? How many members in all of the trust, Rokawa?
There's only 3. I think Rokawa there's 5, but they only want 3 to go on to that governance committee because that allows for 2 not to be present or to be busy doing other things.
Yeah, the actual makeup of the trust though, 3 we're going from 1 to 3, is that correct, Kirsty?
Previously, we only had one member
Yeah.
on because they were doing the governance committees jointly with the other councils that they have the governance committees
Right.
with. So they only wanted one member from each local authority to go on that. But now we're having separate governance committees. So there's
Okay.
one for Taupo District Council, one for Rotorua, and one for South Waikato.
Okay,
So they're looking at having 3 members from.
right, okay.
Through you, Chair, this is the first time you have not had a formal co-governance meeting with no kawa.
Yeah,
This is literally your first opportunity, which is why you require a full board or full complement of trustees to represent TDC's interests.
great. That's got to be a good thing. So, thank you very much, Sue. All right, so we have, so you're suggesting the other two, so who we had a Kathy, Kylie, Kirsty's obviously on it, or John would like the 2 positions. So there's, so what you're suggesting here, Sue, or Tina, I think, suggested that the councillors that are on Tarrant,
Yep.
makes sense for them to be on here.
That's right. Less
But you
one.
only need 2 out of the 3 names, correct?
I need 3 out of the 4 names.
3, well, obviously, Kirsty makes sense for her being living in that area. So 2, do I have volunteers from the other Councillor Guy and Councillor Lennon? All good? Or Councillor John? Yeah. So, you're willing? Councillor Lennon? Okay, so I've got 3. I only need 2, correct?
No, you need 3. You need 3.
So, but you can't take Councillor Truman out?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. All right. Ladies happy? Councillor, so the council appoints Councillor Truman, Guy and Leonard. And then 2 the same, and 3.
And 3, the joint committee we have, which is Te Kaupua Kanapanapa, which was essentially established through the settlement legislation, have, at their meeting on the 4th of December, adopted some new terms of reference, or slightly amended terms of reference. The amendments aren't enormous. So we didn't adopt them last council meeting because we knew that was going to happen, and otherwise we'd have adopted out-of-date terms of reference. So this is just to adopt the updated terms of reference for Te Kaupua Kanapanapa.
What were those changes again?
The changes
Sorry,
were
just quickly.
essentially adding things like when you will get your agenda items,
Right, yep.
co-chairs, the inclusion of technical support, and that the regional council is providing administration support. So they're really just identifying
Yeah,
things that
sure.
were going to happen anyway, but they're putting
Straightforward
them in the
things,
terms of
yeah,
reference.
cool. All right, thank you very much, Sue. Nothing else to add? No? Okay, could I have a mover, please? Councillor Park, seconded by Councillor Truman. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. Sorry? Oh, sorry. Councillor Westerman, sorry, seconded that. Yeah. Sorry, Kirsty. I thought you were always nodding, and I thought, what's this nigger? All right. Thank you very much. 4.5, Health and Safety Report. We have Michelle McGill. Nice to see you, Michelle.
Good afternoon, everyone. Your Worship, councillors.
Got your report here. Thank you very much. So, anything you want to add to it?
Well, basically, it was just really an overview for our new elected members of
Yep.
just the systems that we do have in place
Yep.
and just how it supports the KPIs that we're rolling out across council.
Yep.
And, you know, that we have got a framework that's robust for managing risks.
Yep.
And if there's anything further you'd like me to elaborate on.
Yeah, sure. Something I was going to ask, just slipped my memory now. Was this going to be a standard agenda item going forward, or are we still going to keep this on audit and risk, or the new name of audit and
I
risk?
do report every quarterly to the
Council.
to you guys
Full council,
in this
yeah.
forum.
Yeah, sure.
So yeah, and this will be a standard agenda.
Yeah, sure. Okay. Any other questions while I'm looking what else I wanted to ask? Councillor Body.
I'm just surprised. I had not seen the document as to what we do, and I'm just surprised to see here ski passes subsidised mortgages.
It's great, isn't it?
It's very strange, and yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
whether it's right or wrong is not really the issue, but it is someone else's money, And I do have an issue that I brought up with our standing orders, which I can address now if you wish, Your Worship.
So maybe if I just answer that question off, I did anticipate this question coming when I was rereading the agenda this morning and thought maybe we should have amended the wording on there. Because I think the word subsidise makes it appear that it's ratepayers that are subsidising those mortgages, etc. It's not. It's simply discounts. So, for example, we have an agreement with some of the major trading banks who have a percentage rate discount for TDC employees. It doesn't cost the ratepayer anything. It's a decision of the trading bank. Likewise, RAL provides us with the opportunity for our staff to get discounted season passes. So it's not a subsidised from a ratepayer's perspective. It's a discounted from a provider's perspective.
And that would be the same as the ski passes, would that be correct? Yes. Just to come back to the standing orders which I raised on the 26th. This is headed health and safety, and I noticed at Appendix 8 of our standing orders, failure to leave a meeting. And what concerned me, and I'm reading it, it states here, attempts to re-enter without permission, blah, blah. Any member of the police or officer or employee of the local authority may. That puts a member of our local authority here in a risk situation if it turns to violence. Now, twice in the last 6 years, one we had a gentleman walk in and sat at the top table and joined us for lunch, and then we had the one over Tilly the dog, and we were asked to go out to the council's room. I'm just wondering whether that needs to be looked at, because I think it's unfair for either a councillor or a council staff member to be the person that does any ejecting.
So through you, Mr. Chairman, that's obviously, it says may, not will, so it's at the discretion of the officer and or the councillor at the time. And obviously in the first instance, if there is no risk involved, then we would be asking people to leave and have done in the past. And I'd also go so far to say that we have compliance officers on staff who are suitably trained for such activities as well.
It's the case, I'm quite happy, but just to see that a staff member, and I think the last occasion, the only councillor that was left to deal with that particular gentleman was Councillor Cousins.
Mr. Fox, sorry, you.
I was just going to add, through the chair, that in other councils that I've been employed at, that where that situation has occurred, where there's been staff and compliance officers, and that hasn't been enough, then the police have been called.
Okay.
Cool. Hasn't been a situation that's occurred in my knowledge here, but it has happened in other places.
Just to clarify, Michelle, these what do we do? Are they available to elected members? I'm just looking at the boot camp here.
I think most of them have been. I mean, we included the mole maps and things that, you know, as they've requested them, we've introduced them. So,
Right.
like I say, this is just the strategy that Mandy and I from People and Capability are working on.
Yeah.
So it's sort of, we're rolling it all out next year, but you know, we'll include where it sits with elected members, volunteers, and
Okay,
different
cool.
parties.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
All right, any other questions of Michelle? Very good, thank you very much. Straightforward there that we received the report. Could I have a mover, please? Thanks, Councillor Rankin, seconded by Councillor Leonard. All those in favour, please say aye. Those against? Carried. Right, 4.6, Council Administration Building, change to scope. Obviously, we workshopped this at some length last week, correct? Yeah. Okay, Philip, have you got anything to add?
Correct. No, the workshopping was done as part of the introduction to the project, and the result of that was to prepare this resolution, which is on the table for you to consider.
Right, and that's removing one level of the basement car park. Cool.
Remove one level of basement parking, so we have one level of basement parking rather than two.
For sure. Very good. Okay, any questions or queries of Philip? Obviously, the in-boom parking's taking place now. It's looking really good. It's about finished.
In place by Christmas.
See ya.
Yes.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. Question. Councillor Taylor.
Just a quick question. The amended long-term plan has 37.5 million plus GST. The saving from taking the additional layer of car park out is 5 million. Does that include GST or is that plus GST?
Plus GST was done.
Then that should be in the notes, respectfully, to accurately reflect what it is we're talking about. I just, as a matter of record, I'm still uncomfortable with the overall price and cost of this. But I'll leave it at that for now.
We can certainly include the words including,
Well,
excluding GST.
Yeah, I'll just check with the CEO. All our financial figures are excluding normal?
Unless otherwise noted.
Unless otherwise noted. Okay, so
Sorry,
yeah,
but
so it should have been.
my point is it's either in or it's out.
Yeah,
If it's in, it should reflect that accurately.
Yeah, yeah. Cool. Okay. Councillor Body.
In regards to the underground car parking, was that to be for public use, or did we decide on staff cars? What was the outcome of that?
It's probably still to be decided, but the understanding was it would largely cater for our fleet of pool cars.
So not staff private cars, we're talking council cars.
How many additional spaces will be available for the general public?
Zero.
None. Okay. So we're going to spend. The other question is in regards to, if we look at what's stated here in the resolution, not the resolution, but the information to it, it talks about bus facilities. Now, recently we had Abley in this chamber with 4 sites around town, which they suggested 2 Whareroa Street, but they also made it very, very clear, and I had them confirm it later, that if a bus station went in, 60 further car parks would go. Is that correct or not?
The talk around the bus station included in or out is a conversation that's yet to be had with councillors, and the instructions we're under at the moment is to include it in the design, and it'll be up to you to decide, once you've got further information about what the other sites might look like, how many car parks might be removed, what it might entail, to then consider whether or not we proceed with the bus park being included in, but was deemed far more logical to include it in the design rather than try and include it in later.
So it doesn't commit you to it. All it does is means the designs will be prepared on the basis to show you what it would look like, and then at that stage you've got the opportunity to say yes or no.
Well, I'm finding this now becoming like the cart before horse. Until we know all the facts of what we may or may not do, can we make a decision on putting a building on that site? There's all those unknowns that still haven't been answered.
So the decision that you made in terms of the bus site was quite the flip of that until you know what it looks like and how it's incorporated, you can't make a decision whether the buses are there or not, which with respect would be the right way of doing it, that you actually then know what you're comparing your apples and your oranges with.
Because it largely fits in with the whole transport strategy. There's all the other movements of traffic and how it might fit in and impacted by all those other strategies, so the transport strategy might provide the clarity you're seeking.
And through you, Mr. Chairman, the 37 million is only for the build, not for bus stations or retail space?
The design of the bus station and the build of the bus station and the retail space, or let's call it a cafe, is included in that cost.
So that could reduce depending on your decisions in terms of the bus station, but then obviously, again, depending on your future decisions, you may need to spend more money elsewhere if the buses aren't here to do something else, if that's your wish at that time.
All right. Councillor Westman.
Look, I'd just like to make a statement while this is still open for discussion, because, like John, I'm a little concerned about the word bus depot being included. Down in Queenstown, they just do what we're currently doing, and I don't know that we need to be responsible for locating a bus depot anywhere near our new council building, which we do need. But if you can just bear with me, I've just got to get this off my chest and then I will move on, I promise. I've written this because over the weekend I'm just really welled up about it. As councillors, we've been asked to look at a long-term plan in the district scheme for the next 10, 20 and 50 years out. So I'd just like you to take a moment and envisage what the heart of Taupo could look like even 20 years out. Hopefully very vibrant, full of retail, restaurants, maybe even 2 Whareroa being an eat street, blocked off to traffic, something like Rotorua. And I was there on Saturday night in Rotorua, and I can attest to you that that works very, very well. Will the council building add vibrancy to that location? Unfortunately, I think not. I think it will stymie the growth of the town and along that stretch of 2 Whareroa Street by having a large format office block in the heart of our town. Also, it is all well and good council thinking that they'll receive an income from the 300 square metres of retail space planned, But as we've all been around for quite some time, and we see shops moving from here to there, from one street to another, when a developer has built a new building, discovered that he can't get a tenant, so he goes up the road, knocks on the door of Briscoe's, they move here, they move there, and it's just waiting for another deal to be offered to them. And I am concerned that we may have a vacancy in our retail space if the council proceed with that avenue. Town always has vacancy periods, some longer than others. And if we're going to restrict bulk retail style of shops in our town, which I think is great, then we might be limited to mum and dad style tenants moving into the town centre who usually take leases over a short term, and there's a continual turnover of businesses in those shops. So we might be sitting there with a vacant retail space once we've built. They also usually require financial help with the fit out. Just consider Mr. Cooper's new building in 2 Whareroa Street, empty for some time, delays and extra costs for the build. Can you imagine what the public are going to react if the new build does not attract retail tenants once it's built, and then let's hope it's not at the expense of other property owners when their tenants move into our new building. Putting the location to one side at the moment, the other matter I'm concerned about is the cost. Even if we remove one level of underground car parking, this only reduces the bill by about $5 million. Can Taupo truly afford to spend $30 million on a council building? And that's today's estimate. I mentioned earlier in the day what it's already cost to review some plans for my mother's building down on Robert Street. And I would suspect that you can add another 20 or 25% by the time it's completed in a couple of years' time. Surely we can follow the Gisborne City Council's lead and come out maybe only spending $12 million. And wow, what a wonderful looking building that is. The mana and style of that is amazing. Something we could be really proud of, as they are. As our CEO pointed out at a meeting last month, he won't be around at the end of the build when his contract expires. Not sure whether the mayor's standing again, but for us councillors who may want a second term, we are the ones who are going to front foot this in front of the public. We will have to stand and ensure that we've made the right decision today or in the very near future. I just want to take some time and ensure that we're making the right call. And lastly, when I'm reading through the property group reports, which came to me late last week from Phil, thank you, I note that the council did have the foresight back in the 1980s to start acquiring some of these sites in 2 Whareroa and Robert Street we were looking at building. One of the purchases is from a Mr. and Mrs. Heppy, where it notes that Mrs. Heppy is terminally ill and the administrators completed the sale after their death. I understand, depending on how the purchase took place by the council, there might be a right for buyback from the family, and I just want to make sure that we have in fact completed that process correctly, so we don't get halfway through a build and we have family members knocking on our door saying that's their land and they never had the opportunity to buy it back. Included in the information I was given late last week was a letter from Simpson Grierson. The council had taken some advice from them in February 2019, and in the summary it notes that there is a risk of including commercial activities for the new CAB, and it might give rise to the land is no longer required for public works and should be offered back to the former owners. Now, I understand there could be a couple of different owners involved in there. They note the overall mix and levels of uses is relevant, and the higher proportion of alternative use to the overall development is the highest risk. The council will need to act in accordance of sound business practice, is what they're telling us. So why take that risk of including retail into that building? I'm keen to see a new building with council owning it in the town centre somewhere, but I just feel that we haven't, as new councillors, been given all the overview on the options previously presented to the previous council, and I plead with you, I really plead with you to give us the chance to reconsider all the options and the information on the 2 Whareroa Street site and any other ones that may have been considered by the previous council.
So Mr. Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Green.
so there's three things out of there that I just want to clarify, or at least have a chance to answer. One was the 242 Street being a future East Street, and that's certainly something that we would welcome, and something that the Commercial Industrial Structure Plan talks about for the future. But what that does talk about is that the pedestrian precinct is defined as being the block between Tongariro and Ruapehu Street, where this one we're talking Ruapehu and Tiri Rauponga, so the next block out, which has been identified for those more vehicle intensive uses rather than the pedestrian uses, so that's the differentiation there. I would completely agree with you if we were talking the other side of Ruapehu Street. The second bit, and it's a really important part because it relates also to the Public Works Act, but is around the retail space. So the advice that you talk about is absolutely correct, and that we've been very consistent with that we could not put retail on that, pure retail on that site without having to go through an offer back because of the way that the land was acquired for a public use at the start, and pure retail was not a public use. Remembering that we aren't talking about retail here, we're talking about a cafe, and the advice is that if it's ancillary to a building, such as a cafe, then or a bus stop, then that is okay, and we therefore don't have to go through that Public Works Act offer back process. So essentially all we're doing is, and what the advice says is, all we're doing is changing from one public use to another, and that's a process that we go through without having to do an offer back. The offer back happens if the use changes and is no longer a public use, which would be the case if it was pure retail, if that makes sense.
All right. Okay, any other comments? Councillor Mack.
I've said it before. Basement car parking. From my point of view, again, I've got to say $5.5 million for that underground car park, when we're supposed to be talking about the fact that we're going away from cars, and the fact that we don't know what's going to happen in a few years, and also the fact that we did say that we could put them above ground if we had to. Not ideal, but it would still save $5.5 million of ratepayers' money.
Cool. All right. Anything you want to add further, Philip?
No, other than any questions?
Yeah, sure. Okie dokie. What's that? Oh, then you're Iron Man. Congratulations.
Oh, thank you very much.
Sorry, I digress. All right. Okay. Yeah, appreciate the comments from the councillors here this afternoon.
Just through the chair, can I just make one comment?
Yeah, Councillor Williamson.
Just, absolutely, when I say appreciate Councillor Westerman's comments and everybody else's comments for the matter. Having been involved with the process the last 3 years, certainly from my perspective, I felt being well informed, good information, consulted with the community, etc. And that's always a hard task, getting a sort of a consensus there. And I think, and also appreciate the value of the new councillors coming in, appreciate and listening to them, and just keeping an open mind. And I think going forward, the democratic process, whether it should be underground car parking or should be take other alternative sort of viewpoints. I think I'm personally comfortable with the decision going forward. Having said all that, and I'm willing to recommend move the recommendation.
Okay.
So it stands.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Williamson. Councillor Williamson has moved the recommendation that we include just one level of basement car parking. Do I have a seconder, please? Seconded by Councillor Park. Any other commentary?
Just before you put it to the vote, I find
Yes.
it quite interesting that Councillor Williamson made the comment about listening to the people. There were 68 submissions out of the number that there were wanting underground car parking. Some time ago I suggested to Mr Green that our fleet cars stay up at Rifle Range Road, and Mr Green's comment to me was it's inconvenient for staff. So if this goes through, we will be telling the people that our fleet cars will be in a $6 million underground car park. So the inconvenience then lands on the ratepayer who's having to meet that cost, whether it's in our forward planning or not. So I will be certainly voting against this resolution. I have been consistent since 3 years ago. I think myself and Councillor Hickley made a comment when we came up about the administration building. At that time, and I still do, prefer monies to be used on the arts and the museum, rather than a building in a prime place of town that's going to be empty for nearly a third of a year. That to me does not make economic sense.
Councillor Park.
Just to clarify, regardless of car parking, the building's still going to have a basement, right? You're going to have to build the building, you're going to have to break ground, you're going to have a hole, and there will be a basement, is that correct?
There'll be foundations regardless, indeed.
Did you not say that that was 550,000 though?
So, yeah. All right, so Councillor Taylor.
So just one more comment and question. So if I heard you correctly, the discussion around in or out of the bus terminal is still within scope, and that's a discussion and a decision we need to make further on. My suggestion, if that's the case, then obviously the full design of the building is yet to be decided. Yeah?
Correct.
So would a suggestion that we consider the relative values, if it hasn't already been done and I've missed it, I apologise, of above ground parking as opposed to underground parking and the relative costs and benefits of that? Because if we haven't even decided on a bus terminal and that's going to be a significant infrastructure build, why not look at car parking as well? Yeah?
So you're absolutely right, Councillor. The process and the track that we were on was that we've got designers on board at the moment, and depending on with obviously the new council coming on board, the designs will be done. They'll be brought back to you for your input and then your approval. If this item wasn't on the table today, so assume that the election hadn't happened, this item wasn't on the table, the decisions that you would make at that time when you're putting your input into the designers would be the very questions that you just asked. Bus station in, bus station out, what's the impact of that? Car parking, 2 levels, 1 level, no levels, what's the impact of that financially and on the design of the building? What we've got here though is because we've got the new, an issue which was live through the election process and therefore a desire quite rightfully from council to reconsider this for the new councillors as a step before that, to be able to say actually our preference is to drop that level off and therefore that money off. But there is nothing stopping you through the process, through the design process, to re-look at everything, because everything is up for grabs, if you like, through that design process when you're sitting here with the architects. Because likewise with the dollar value, as we've talked about, that's the worst case scenario. Depending on what the design looks like, that'll change through there, and you are ultimately responsible for that because you are the ones who will be signing off those designs as they get done.
Yeah, through the chair. Yeah, obviously that was, Councillor Taylor's question was absolutely brilliant. I think you answered it very well. Thank you.
Councillor Guy.
Yes, I just would like to ask, are we actually being asked now to put a scope forward for a design that we have no input in at this particular point?
So all we're doing at the moment is putting your preference, that your decision that you don't want to have 2 levels of car park. The design is yet to be done. We have the designers appointed, but we've put them on hold at your request to date until you've made the decision that we want to go there. Their next step, basically, they've just been scoping out what their job is and what to bring back to you. Their next job is to bring back to you some concepts and some ideas and some thoughts, and for you to then input that, yes, we like that, no, we don't like that, and then they'll go away into a dark room and come back with plans. So that's all set to happen into February. And so you'll have the input through that process. So we've been working that up over the last probably 4 to 6 weeks, largely site agnostic. So what the office environment should look like, what the council chambers should look like, should we be preferring wood or brick, or that sort of high level thing, and then they will go away and do their work from there.
So lots of meetings yet to go. Councillor Mack.
Okay, so on that then, what we could do is we could vote on a building without an underground car park, make one more councillor happy, and then we could decide whether we added them at the next stage.
Possibly. I
Wouldn't it
think
be
today
better
is
to
a
do the
steer
other
to
way?
the designers that we don't want. There's no appetite for 2 levels of car parking. Basically, that's all that resolution says. Is
Yeah,
that there's
we-
no
we-
appetite, and obviously whether that makes a difference, we're not too sure. But it's no it's no big deal here really as such. So,
We could do it without any car parks and add one
yeah,
at a later stage.
yeah, or we could keep it at 2.
Mr. Chairman, could I just make another point, and Councillor Westerman has made it also. I visited the Gisborne building, as did the CEO, because he had a chief executives meeting over there. I'm now concerned again, we're scoping that, getting designs done, do you like it or don't like it? I've got the plans of that building, I think I've waved them around a couple of times. That's your starting point. The work's been done. It's a fit for purpose, single-storey building, it's
No,
nearly
we've had-
3,000 square metres.
Yeah.
It-
With
I
respect,
don't
councillor
want,
Body.
again, from my point of view, we seem to be wasting more money on designs when it might not be necessary.
Councillor Rankin, sorry.
Can I just want to say clearly for the new councillors that it was my understanding, and I believe it was the understanding of every councillor in the old council, that we were never going to make decision. I mean, none of us agreed to $40 million, which was being thrown around during the election campaign. Some of us were shocked because we'd never heard that figure before. And we were always going to make the decision about what would be in or out when we got the designs and we finalised the design. There seems to be a belief that the previous council thought no matter how much it costs, this is what we want. It was not like that at all.
Councillor Taylor.
Sorry, except I'm reading right in front of me. The amended long-term plan included 37.5 million plus GST. So if that isn't close to 40 million, then I don't know what is. Look, I'm in favour of the recommendation that's here because it cuts at least $5 million out plus GST.
Which is 6.
On the understanding that the conversation is still very much alive and there is a bit of a journey to go through in terms of the overall cost, and we get a fit-for-purpose building that is not a burden financially on taxpayers, so on ratepayers. I'm also conscious that we owe it to the staff to provide a fit-for-purpose building in a timely manner, which in turn reaps benefits for the ratepayers because they get better, service and better, value for money. I'm also conscious that we don't want to have a building built by a committee because we all know how that's likely to turn out.
Very clear and succinct.
Through the
Councillor
chair, I'd
Taylor.
just like to make it quite clear. It's more than just, with the great respect, it's very important that we find a new building for housing staff. It's more than just a building for housing staff. It's a civic administration building for, a chamber. It's for international domestic visitors. Something that's going to benefit a wide range of the communities and nationally, and also to benefit. Just please just try and stop thinking it's just going to be something to house staff, which is a primary, very important consideration. So I just want to keep trying to people to keep thinking it's a civic building as well. Obviously, Councillor Body mentioned the point about it closes 100 days a year, but so are all the other office professional buildings in the town as well. So I think it's bigger than that. So.
Okay, thanks very much, Councillor Williams. So Phil, just to clarify, the next stage of this recommendation is to proceed here. Next up, when do we see you again?
Back in February, and I'd just like to remind you that we've very much got control of the process of the design as we go through. So we've engaged architects, and once we've been approved to, we'll go ahead and engage engineers, and we'll engage quantity surveyors. And once we start to get the concept plan in place, give it to the engineers, pass it on to the quantity surveyor, they'll be able to provide us with some advice around costings, and because we've got some conversations to be had around the underground car parking. Obviously it's passionate to a lot of people parking in Taupo, but we've also got our importance level conversations to be had. We've got our environmentally sustainability development type conversations to be had. So there's lots of layers of cost that are built into this project here, and we can shave some layers off if that's what elected members choose to do as we go through the process. So we're very much in control of it. It's not something we've designed, we've got a piece of paper, we're going to go to a contractor and say how much to build it, because at this point we don't know what we're building.
Okay, thanks, Ken. Philip, I'm thinking here, would it be advantageous to, and take on point Councillor Taylor's point about the building would only be built by committee, would it be helpful for a working party of a representation of some councillors just to help you through that? Well, yeah, just to be part of that process, so when you're reporting back, you know, we've got some councillors got some in-depth knowledge of the proceedings, or
yeah, two or three would be great, because the design team that we've engaged would be more than happy to engage with elected members to try and understand what's important and be able to, and then the councillors that are on that panel will be able to feed back to the rest of you to give you some confidence of what's the process we've been following. I think that'd be great.
I don't know if we can do it, whether we, you know, the mover and the seconder can amend that, or people want to, the councillors want to think about that. I don't know, what do you reckon, CEO?
So I think it's a great idea, and I'd really welcome 2 or 3 to put their hands up for that. I don't think it needs to be a formal resolution. It's just something that you can agree, let me know, and then we'll include you on, you know, a little group on there.
So perhaps we can talk about that afterwards, as to, you know, if anyone's got a particular interest in that.
Certainly there's a mechanism in the design process for that to happen.
Yeah, cool. Okay, Councillor Mack.
I'm going to harp on about this because I just don't understand that if we've got all this free range of design, why as councillors we want to spend this $6 million on an underground car park or a basement that we can actually add later anyway. Wouldn't you be saying to the ratepayers, we've done it as good as we can for the civic centre, which is not going to change, it's still going to be wonderful, but we've tried to save money on car parking. When we get to the next stage, if you're right and you say we really do need these, why not add them? We can start off at a cheaper level just because of car parking. So if we could save $11 million saying to the people we don't need it, but then going forward we do need it, we can add it.
Well, we can also do it in the reverse too. We can take it off.
But
we're taking one layer off today, and we can also take another layer off.
You're not telling the ratepayer that we're trying to do the best by them.
Well, I think we are showing an indication today that we'll say. Sorry, Councillor Park.
I would have thought that, having seconded the recommendation, that it would be wise to go out with a design scope of the bigger picture and then take stuff away than to go with a design scope with more limited vision and then have to go back for more work. Yeah. It's probably better to have your options from the start than to get the design and then want to add to that. I would have thought that would have been a more expensive way to go about that.
So we can always take it off later on?
We've got total control.
Total control, yeah. Councillor Guy?
Oh, I was just going to say, having built a new wing on at the Chateau some years ago, I certainly endorse what Councillor Park is saying, and I think that it would be wise to start with the better scenario and work our way down from there.
Yeah. Councillor Kingy?
I wonder, Your Worship, then whether that recommendation actually says that. So if I read that bottom line, it says to include only one level of basement parking. Could you say may or something along those lines? Does that imply that we're actually...
Maximum?
Include or exclude.
Yeah. Or may include or exclude. I mean, that... Yeah, I don't know. Well, I think just picking up on John's comments, which I get, it's the value. I mean, $5-6 million for parks. I mean, that's what people are going to get hung up on. So I get the point about if we can come in with, hey, this is what we've tried to do, this is the building we're going to try and provide, and if we want these optional extras, like you get fries when you drive through McDonald's, you can get it at a later point, but that might imply something else.
Councillor Taylor.
Can I suggest the easiest way to do that is just remove the word basement. We have only one level of car parking, wherever that might be. And that way it leaves your options open, and I agree with what the Chief Executive has said previously around the efficiency of having pool vehicles available for staff to use and not having to take their own vehicle to an off-site position and come back, and that's just, to me, doesn't make sense. So I will suggest you remove the word basement, and unless everyone else is violently objecting to it, I'll move that.
So are you moving the amended, like the mover and seconder, and favour of that amendment, so that can mover and seconder still move that resolution, amended resolution? If you're happy to do so, Councillor
Sorry,
Wilson?
Chair.
Councillor Park, sorry.
I'd-
Councillor Leonard.
I'd just be really interested to know how many pool vehicles we're talking about involved at the Taupo District Council, and how many of those are used for personal use. Are we talking 5 vehicles, 10 vehicles, or 150 vehicles, or 200 vehicles?
I'll tell you what.
So in terms of pool vehicles, so they're not personal use, they're the ones that are used for work purposes, so they're branded Taupo District Council vehicles. We're talking roughly 30, so it's give or take between 30 and 40 vehicles. Those are the ones that would be primarily housed in the one level of car parking.
So how many other vehicles are there, just out of interest?
So there are, I can give you those details outside of this. There are a number of other vehicles. The other vehicles are either specific vehicles off-site, so say dog catching wagons or parks vehicles or whatever, or they are salary sacrifice vehicles, which is a contractual thing that you have full use of a vehicle, but you pay for that through your salary. So those are treated quite differently again.
Excellent.
Is the mover of the amended...
Just one very quickly.
Oh, sorry, Councillor Mack.
So one level of car parking can be above ground.
Yes.
Brilliant.
So through the chairs, the move of the recommendation, do I have to necessarily support that? I have to agree to it, yeah.
What's that? One level of parking? Yeah,
No,
yeah.
I have to agree to it, yeah.
Yes, the suggestion from Councillor Taylor was just to take the word basement out. So one level of car parking's got to be somewhere. Could be on the side, could be on the top, could be below. But obviously the practical way.
No, well,
is
I'm just going to present just maybe, I'm just losing the perspective that I don't think I normally do, but I think, I'm just thinking of the big picture here. Like, obviously, if the building's going to go there, you have one level of basement car parking. Whoever's using it, in the possibly likely or unlikely, whatever scenario, in the future local government changes and the use of that building is used for different purposes. You have a car park there for tenants, and also in terms of the sale of the building, it's got to be certainly in favour of people leasing out those, for example, income comes from leasing out those car parks. Yes, in the context, it's probably not a big amount, but I think just the whole big picture, I still support one level of basement car parking as we discussed at the workshop.
Right. So
we will need to go through and vote on to either rescind it, revoke it, and have an amendment to that.
Yeah, sure. Just to clarify this parking, it's one level of parking. Yeah, what the suggestion could be come through the architects, could be on top of the thing, or could be below. But you're still going to have a level of parking. That is correct. Yeah. Okay. So you're not happy with the amended?
So you'll have to go through move it.
Yeah.
To get a second. Either vote for it against, or have another amendment to the resolution.
Okay. Right. Thank you very much. This is why I earn my money now. Councillor Park.
Yeah, as a seconder, I'm along the same lines as Councillor Williamson. This is about the design scope, and the design scope that we are sending to the architects to look at. So whether it's one level across the road, on the roof, underneath, it is the design scope. And the design scope is to include one level of basement car parking. So the original recommendation moved and seconded stands.
Okay. Yep. Councillor Mack.
So very quickly then, if we're talking about being open-minded, which we all are, we're still allowing one level of car parking. So nothing's being removed. But that's your design. We're talking about open now, where we're saying we would like the car parking, but we'd like to talk about where it goes. So we're not stopping the car parking, but what you're saying is you won't do anything unless it goes to the original plan.
I want the design scope. We're better to go and ask them for what it might look for and then remove it than to say one level and then then ask them to go and look at basement. It just doesn't make sense. I think we're all just getting a bit caught up on a word.
Yeah, we're getting a bit caught up, but I think what we're trying to counter
$6 million.
is if the architect, we're still happy with the one level of car parking, but if the architect says, look, it's probably better on the roof, yeah, then we look at it. Is that what I'm trying to get from Councillor Taylor? Is that?
Yeah, it is, except as the recommendations put, it's not what we're saying. If you take out the word basement, you broaden the scope. You give the designers and the architects a much broader canvas from which to bring back some designs. I know it might sound semantic, but we spent a lot of time discussing this, and if you just take that one word out, I think it saves a lot of discussion. So unless there is an agreement to do that, can I ask you put it to the vote, and if it's whichever way it goes, we can take the next steps from there.
Okay.
When the council send out their press release, whatever happens with this here, it will be acknowledged that the car parking is for council fleet vehicles. Would be correct?
Through the chair,
Yeah.
okay. So we'll get back to hear what John Mack's saying in terms of democracy and prepared to listen, but given that possibly the flavour around the table is that want to remove the word basement, notwithstanding the fact that doesn't mean that it cannot be, it could still be included.
Yeah.
So we're talking semantics there, really.
Yeah.
So, so in that case, I'll withdraw my move, as a mover recommendation is support the.
Would you be happy to move an amended one with just that, the word basement?
Well, that will be a amendment to the original recommendation.
So instead of include one level of car parking. Yeah. So that's just the remove the word basement. Yeah. Yeah. So same thing, but further design, the architect might come back and say one ground floor, one level of car parking, one floor on top. Who knows? And we've got to be open-minded regarding the design of this particular project. Councillor Guy?
If the semantics are around the word basement, why not say one level of basement or external car parking?
External would mean external of the building, though?
That's right. It could be around the exterior of the building.
And I understand what we're saying. I think if it's either got to be the original one or just remove the word basement. I'm just thinking in my mind different designs where you have cars underneath the building but it's not the basement, it's at ground level and you've got the two above and stuff like that. So you just run the risk of starting to dominate any good ideas that the architects come from, which I don't think is what you're intending on doing. So I guess the question is you've got a mover and a seconder for how it is. The question is whether or not they withdraw and either put it to the vote on one hand, or they withdraw and remove the other way, or withdraw and have someone else remove and second the other way.
I think the mover suggested that he'd be happy with the word basement gone and just have one level of parking in there.
I think you said that.
But it is semantics. With respect, it is semantics. It's one level of we're still having one level of parking. Yeah. So unless I could Councillor Taylor to move an amended resolution. You still have a resolution. Is the mover prepared to just take the word basement out?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Okay, so it's been moved by Councillor Williamson, the amended resolution. Councillor Park would like to talk to it?
For being a good team player, I'll happily go with the amendment. Your worship.
Okay, all those... All right, thank you very much, Philip. You're right with all that?
Have you put it to the vote?
Not yet. Just extend it out a bit. Okay, all those in favour, please say aye. Those against? Abstaining? Not against? Abstaining. Okay. Yeah, no, we're not. Anyway, cool. All right, been moved and seconded. Sorry, Councillor Body, can I clarify, you're abstaining or against? Can you be both? Abstain. Okay, thank you very much. Very good.
Thank you very much.
The recommendation is carried. Thank you, Philip. All right, item number 5.2. 4.7, Great Lake Pathway Upgrade Tender Consideration. We have Fraser Scott and Kevin Strongman and Greg Hadley. Good afternoon, gentlemen.
I'll just, if I can, I'll just start this off if that's okay. We've got quite a team here going to provide some advice. Just a reminder that this is a great legacy project along the lakefront of Taupo. It is something that we've had the opportunity to advance to meet the 70.3 requirements. And through this process, this is a key milestone in the project. There's no doubt about it. What we have here is we've been through a tender process, and it's a two-stage tender process. The first stage was non-priced attributes. We did it this way to make sure that we have the best chance of giving this the best chance to succeed. And so we weighted really highly on the capability of the contractors that we had, their ability to deliver a quality product, their ability to actually meet the tight timelines that we have, and most importantly to meet the requirements of our key customers and the people who use that walkway, to maintain it, keep it open throughout the majority of the construction where we could. I think going through the process and looking at those non-priced attributes, we ended up with a company that we are suggesting here that put together a package that was second to none. It was amongst the best that we had seen when it came to the effort and time that they put into the tender document to show us how they would actually maintain that key pedestrian access all the way through there, and to give it the best chance to produce quality product at the end. Now, I don't have to be Nostradamus to realise that the prices that we've got through the tender box, we're going to get some questions on it. When we opened the price, we were probably as disappointed as the elected members here to see the quantum of that cost. And there were some robust discussions with our designers and with our advisors in the space and our estimators. Today we want to walk you through those of where some of those key differences are, and hopefully they're self-explanatory, and take any questions that we do have. Fraser is also just going to remind everyone, particularly the new elected members, of what the project is. And we've got the entire team here to take us through this.
Okay.
So, Fraser, yours?
Quick questions of Kevin before Fraser starts? Nope. Okay, thanks, Kevin. Fraser, good afternoon. No.
It will help, thank you. Thank you. Good afternoon, Your Worship and councillors. Thanks for the opportunity to come talk to you about this project this afternoon. So you obviously, well not obviously, but I assume you know, well you obviously know Kevin, and I assume you know Steve and Greg, but some of you probably don't know me. So my name's Fraser Scott. I'm the landscape architect for TDC, and the project manager, lucky enough to be the project manager for this project since March this year. As part of this project, our team have worked closely together. We've also worked closely with the Cultural Relationships Manager, David Ramaka, and the Reserves Manager, Nathan Murray, and our stakeholders, the C75 Maori Trust, and Tūwharatua Maori Trust Board, and, the Mobility Access Group and Bike Taupo. The project covers the upgrade of the existing lakeside pathway from the water treatment plant to Kowhai Road at the dip in Rainbow Drive, which you'll probably know very well. That's a stretch of 4.2 kilometres. Currently, the average width is about 1.2 metres wide, and the surface is in paving stones. That's obviously a big concern to the Mobility Access Group and the Age Concern Group. Of note, a third of this section is owned by the Waipahihi C75 Maori Trust. So, as I said, we work closely with them. Working with those groups, those key stakeholders, the key driver there is to ensure that we capture their values and recognise those during our design process. As Kevin's alluded to at the start of the process, we can't assume what those values are until we know what they are, and that's what we work through from concept design to detailed design, and that help explains some of that gap between concept price and tender price. It's moving from theory to reality, and that's part of it. So one of those key values for C75 and Tūwhare Tower was not using hard structures next to the lake edge. We can't get away with that because we want to put the path alongside the lake edge. So rock walls and timber retaining walls were out, and we landed on a cantilevered boardwalk as a way of reaching a consensus that it's still in keeping with their values and it achieves the path around the edge of the lake. So there's about 120, approximately 120 lineal meters. Sorry, what was it? Lineal meters, yes. Yeah. And that again is a change. Like, we had allowed for about 75 in our concept design, and that jumped up. And so we've straight away got a change from just length, and also, so probably it's a good enough time as any to mention it. There was our estimate was very close on 90% of the items. 10% of the items were out. Unfortunately, as luck would have it, those items were the most expensive ones, and the boardwalk was one of those. Sorry. Yeah, so we'll just quickly go through that. Those are the key stakeholders, and then this is I don't know if this mouse will help. So the main boardwalk, the first. So if I talk about this from the water treatment plant around to Kowhai Drive, so the first one we hit is at opposite Tremaine Ave, and that's the pinch point there. And the benefit of that is, well, twofold. We meet the requirements, but also we maintain that beach at the moment. And then the next one is opposite Matuku Street, which just past the sales centre, heading south, that other pinch point there. And again, the benefit is we get to maintain that beach in its current form. I guess it's worth noting also that we haven't overplayed this. We haven't layered it up with extensive design areas or anything. This is the bare minimum we can do while still achieving best practice and working with our stakeholders' values. We've worked really hard as a team to pull anything out that was seen as extra. And in addition to that, during the construction process, if we're lucky enough to get there, we'll continue to try and attack those numbers and get them down as much as we can. I guess the other thing is that we would usually come back to council with a detailed estimate once we'd done our detailed design, but due to the timing of local body elections, we weren't able to do that. And given the time restrictions of this project, we felt it expedient to do it the way we did. During the process, the consultation's taken a lot longer than we anticipated, and that was important to get that relationship right. But it has obviously provided us with the opportunity to come back to you with this item now. I guess just to finish up that estimate difference, as Kevin said, that's probably the main question there, is those three other items. So the boardwalk was one of them, the concrete difference was another. So our estimate was out by about $10 a square metre. That estimate was based on best practice on projects that were done in the short to medium past, and I guess the time frame of this project and the scale of it has meant that we were out there. And again, just the sheer distance of this meant that estimate, although it was out only by $10, so 80 to 90 was the difference, that ends up being $100,000 difference. So very soon you start eating into that difference. The next big one is the contingency. We wouldn't go into a construction period without a contingency, and at 10%, that's somewhere in the order of, it's 410,000. So those are big numbers straight away. The next one is the traffic management. So as part of getting, as Kevin said, one of the best tenders I've seen ever, and the quality of this contractor on board means that they work at best practice, and to achieve that is expensive, and our estimate for traffic management was significantly low, and that accounts for the next part of the difference.
So really, just to elaborate on some of this, on the concrete in particular, that's $10 per square metre difference. The way that we got our price is we looked at what we paid for Whariwaka footpath extension, what we paid for Hoka Falls. We looked at that; they were much shorter than this. We thought we'd get some economies of scale. We went for a price based on that with our estimators from WSP. We thought we had it about right, but market says it's actually not right. It's around that $90. And that's just what it is. So it's not like we just we don't do this and have a guess. We go through best practice, last set of contracts that we have, the best prices that we do have, and then we see whether we think we're going to get some economies of scale or not. In this instance, we got it wrong. We just put a hand up. The estimators as a team, we got it wrong, and that means there's a difference, unfortunately.
The traffic management side too, it's very, very important in my mind to get that right. You've got a highly precious, that's a precious area, that whole, this Golden Mile, and basically all the Golden 4 miles. It's so special to a lot of people, including the private owners, of course, that have been graciously given the permission to do this. And to get that right, to get it still user-friendly while construction takes place. And I've seen this particular, proposed successful tenderer here, and what they've done in their existing work down here with them doing parking. They're a class, well, I believe they're a classy contractors. So hence we should have probably, we should have gauged it a bit better, probably, the traffic management, but I can understand the costs involved with that. What was the other third? That's the concrete?
So sorry, through the chair, the traffic management, just to add on that,
Yep.
it is a difficult site, and we have asked them to keep it as open as we absolutely can.
Yeah.
And we've asked them to stay on the lake side of Lake Terrace as well. Yeah. You could do it cheap and nasty, and you could just put everyone across Lake Terrace and get away from the lakefront altogether. That's probably acceptable if you've got a really small project. This is going to take 6 to 8 months. That's probably unacceptable to our community to do that.
I should have added traffic and people management.
It's people management, and we did think that because it's not a lot of vehicle management that we get a cheaper price. But when we look at their proposal, they've got as many cones, as many barricades as what you'd have to close a road. So, because of what it is. Yeah.
And what was the third?
So we had boardwalks.
Boardwalk, traffic management, concrete.
And contingencies.
Yeah. So you got 10% contingencies up there, so that's $400,000. So
that's right. Yeah.
So you never use contingencies, do you? Here's open anyway. All right. Sorry, put it out there, members. Councillor Mack.
I'm normally of a happy disposition until I come here. So $1 million a kilometre. Yep, which is cool. So you're saying about your contingency, which again, I've only been here a short period. These figures you're giving us, they're going to be no more?
That's correct. So now we're dealing with tenders, real world figures.
And that could come in less?
Absolutely.
We would hope so.
Okay.
Yes.
And the last bit to mine is that on here it says that if we do nothing, we've already told the triathlon when it comes that we will be doing this. Is that right?
That's a question for Steve.
Yes, contractually, council are committed to doing upgrades to the line.
Okay, so where does that put us now?
If we did nothing?
No, if we're voting on this.
So sorry?
So if we're voting on this now to give you the extra money, you're really saying we can't say no.
So I can probably help. So you can. So the contract says that we're going to do an upgrade to the path to make it wider. If you look at the options that we've got there, there's a couple of options which would still be, you're still doing the path, so still meeting the terms of the contract, but saving some money. But what we're saying there is that given the location and the high visibility of the location, our recommendation is that we run with the full contract rather than reducing their scope down. So you've always got the option to reduce the scope down, but we're saying it doesn't make sense in this instance.
Okay.
Sorry, Councillor Mack, if I could just add to that. You're right. So there is an option to scale down if we could meet their obligations contractually. The Ironman event in November next year, a big part of that sets the deadline for this works to be completed. But how we've tried to frame the project is more around community legacy.
Sorry, Steve, can you start again? We've just got a lot of listeners out there in the...
Sorry,
live
my
stream.
apologies. Sorry, to start again, Councillor Mack, absolutely we can scale the project down and we could meet the contractual requirements of the Ironman agreement. But how we've tried to propose the project is more around community legacy. Fraser's talked a little bit about consultation with stakeholders. We've also spent a lot of time with regular user groups and had asked for their feedback. And what we heard through the likes of Access Taupo, Sport Waikato, and then event users like Cycle Challenge and Ironman, was that we've got users from the age of 3 to 93. We've got kids learning to ride bikes. We've got people in wheelchairs. We've got the increase of e-scooters, e-bikes, and the pathway that used to be called the Lions, or known as the Lions Walk, is more than a walkway now. It's a shared path. So that the purpose of the project, Ironman stipulates a deadline for completion of works, but I believe, and I think how the pathway projects have been packaged up is this is something for community growth and also for addressing concerns from some pretty influential sectors of our community when you look at age concern, mobility, and our regional partners too.
Through the chair.
Thank you, Mr. Giles. Councillor Williamson.
Yeah, thank you for that. Thanks, Fraser. I love the work you do. Your urban and your urban design around town. It's greatly appreciated. I think with the community and certainly with us. Firstly, but obviously with mentions about the contingency, it's obviously it's not necessarily a target, but you've obviously mentioned the concrete price and the 190 grand. I presume that's the bulk, a lot of it, 10 metres, $10 a square metres. So you're making an assumption with best practice that is the bulk of that 303,000. I know it's contingencies to expect the unexpected, but you're making an assumption that, for example, that the concrete price is expected they could be going up. Is that the major part of that contingency, or
no.
how's it broken down?
So the concrete prices are confirmed through the tender process. The contingencies for events on site and during the construction process that we don't know about.
I'll give you just to add to that. I thought this question might come up, so I've written down a few things where I think contingencies are covering. So it's for unforeseen material, and it's the removal of that, cart to waste, and then to buy new stuff and bring that in. So we don't know what's under the ground until we get there and scrape the side. We can assume it's as good as what's under the existing paved area, but you can't, you're not 100% right in that space. You're looking at the spring. We're going to locate the spring and do some treatment to that spring. They're notorious for not being where they should be, so we might have difficulty in finding that. We've got to look at the materials for the abutments of the bridges. We think that they're okay. We think that we can find some stuff on there, but this is what the contingency is for those things which you can't tell until you actually get a digger in there and start looking. Treatment of any unforeseen spring areas, because we think we've got some beside Manuel's. We know that there's some hot water that comes through there as well, plus the area around Taharepa. And other areas through there, but if we find some others, we may have to deal with those as well. Looking through for archaeological finds, if we find anything in there, we do have to stop the work and go through the protocols that we've got set up in there. So again, that's what contingency is for those things. And then, what else got there? Unsuitable bedding for the improvements, in particular for the erosion stuff. That could have a cost on that. So all of those things together are a risk. We're not likely to have them all together, but 2 or 3 of those will mean that we need to dip into that contingency. And not being a target in the contract, we've kept a contingency out of the contract. That sits in our budgets, so it's not a target to aim for, which some people get worried about.
What's the project, Kevin? What's the process? Sorry, for contingency when the contractor comes back to you and say, "Hey, we found a, hot spring or whatever."
Yeah.
Do you meet on site and then work out a way
Absolutely.
through it?
So this contract's heavily reliant on NZS 3910, which is the conditions of contract, and then there's a whole process around variations and pricing those variations. So certainly we've got to come to an agreed price, and then we all sign off on that, get the engineer to contract to sign off on that, and then we pay it out after that. So it's certainly not it's not open slate.
You're involved with that process?
Yeah, we're all involved, yes.
All involved, yeah. Cool. The guy.
Just through the chair, given some of these risks or contingencies that you've just highlighted, what we're talking now November next year, what is the timeline that they've given you to complete this work, given the fact that there could be some contingencies?
Yes. So we have them finishing it August next year. So it's tight. Yes. They're very keen. They'd like to start, because they're aware of that timeline, they'd like to start in the first week of January. We're aware that's probably a pretty unrealistic and not ideal time to start, so we're in discussions with them at the moment about starting a little later in January.
Through the procurement process, we sat down with all of the prospective tenderers and said how important this project was to us. One of the key things is that we said that we don't believe that you'll get through it if you just work on one site at a time. This team in particular are working at about 3 to 4 sites open at once. Hence the traffic management's really difficult.
Councillor Boddy?
First of all, I declare an interest in this. I believe it's the best thing that we could be doing at this time. A couple of years ago, my wife and I were in Estonia at Narva, which is on the Russian-Estonian border, and I showed Fraser some photos taken on that walkway that was outstanding, and I believe it could be a walkway of great significance. And if you say to a tourist, what do you want to come and have a look at? Walk along the lake or a new building, they'll say the lake every time. So I'm fully behind it. No car parks going, which is good.
It all depends what new building.
What I'd quickly like to do is look at some of these costings. I notice here that we've got from 2021 and 21-22, 870,000. That budget for those 2 years is 960, so there'd be 90,000 left over in that section of the budget, because we're looking at a shortfall of 690. Would that be correct?
Yes.
What are you looking at, John? The resolution?
I'm looking at page 44 of the agenda.
Yeah.
It's got that 690. We've got 2.6 existing, 870 by bringing forward for those two financial years. There's 90,000 left there. We get 45% back from the regional council, so there's 391. So we're talking nearly 500,000 back to meet the 690. Is that the way it's going to work?
I see Mr. Ward has made a move. He's made a move.
Yeah,
he's come up.
That's not a good sign.
Mr. Ward, the accountant, thank you. The query is, I think you've heard it. Yeah.
For once, I'm a little bit
Made
speechless.
Move anyway.
What we've tried to outline there on page 44 is just what was in the current, so the top box is what was in the current LTP, and then the recommendations around basically how we'll juggle some of the money there to bring it forward. So for the two elements of the project, so the Great Lake Walkway there in the current annual plan, this year's annual plan, we have 2.6 million. And what we're recommending there is in the draft plan that we're currently working on, which will come before you next year, we're recommending you put the shortfall of 690 in there to do with the pathway. And then in terms of the erosion control work, as you can see, over the life of the 10-year plan, we've had money in every year. We're simply just suggesting that you bring forward the money that was set aside for this to align with the project.
That's exactly correct. My point being that in the 2 years we're looking to bring forward, there'll be 90,000 in that budget left. You're looking at 690 new. We get 45% back from the regional. You've got over 400,000 already to meet that shortfall. Will I be correct or not?
So you in terms of, so you've actually mixed project cost and funding there. So the 40, you always have to show, legally, we have to show the full cost of the project. So in terms of talking about the 45%, you're not actually reducing the budget. That's actually merely a funding source. So yeah, you're kind of mixing two things here, John.
just further clarification, and please Neil, correct me if I'm wrong, we recently diverted money from the Acacia Bay water treatment plant to Motoropa, 2 different projects, but both for renewals. So isn't that what we're attempting to do here, is to find that shortfall?
I've outlined my recommendation in terms of what you should do to how to fund the project. That's outlined in the paper. Yeah, that's the recommendation, basically.
Okay, thanks very much, Councillor Boddy. All right, any other questions or queries of the team here this afternoon? Conscious of the fact that, Greg, you're comfortable that the project can be delivered as far as your team is concerned? Just a query, oh sorry.
Yeah, we are, and of course I've been quite involved with the erosion control components of it.
Of course, yeah, and this covers the erosion as well, so you're killing 2 birds, as it were. So the contract, this particular suggested contract here, is that a privately owned company, Fraser, or have they done, obviously doing the in-berm car parking, are they from here, or they?
So through the chair, they're based in Cambridge.
Cambridge, yeah.
And they've got doing the in-berm parking.
Yes.
They've done the refuge island out in front of Robert Street there on Lake Terrace. And they've also won the next CBD upgrade, which we put off because of the fact that we had all Lake Terrace working. So they're very active in the space, and they want to be in Taupo, and so they've put all of their might into winning this tender.
Yeah, cool. Okay, very good. All right, well I think we've traversed that. Thank you guys for, obviously, I know you didn't enjoy coming here today with increased scenario here, but you know, it is a you summed it up earlier, legacy project. You know, along there, it is certainly it's going to become a tourist attraction. I'm glad that Councillor Boddy endorses it, because the one thing he does see from his lot of international travel is these wonderful walkways. So I'm sure it'll be great, and it's going to be how wide is it? 3.2 on the boardwalk. And yeah.
2.8 concrete path, yeah.
Fantastic. So all users will have enjoyment, eh?
Yep.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Any other questions or queries? There's a suggested recommendation there. Do I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Boddy. Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Rankin. All those in favour, please say aye. Those against? Carried. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Right. 4.8. Turangi Tongariro Community Board delegations. Tina. Thank you, Tina.
So the suggestion in terms of increased delegations went to the community board at their last meeting, and they were supportive of including those, and therefore this agenda item provides the terms of reference, including those additional delegations to the Turangi Community Board, remembering that there's a potential for those to change later on if necessary.
Okay. All right. Have any questions or queries of Tina? Pretty straightforward. All right. Could I call for a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Mack, seconded by Councillor Kingi. All those in favour, please say aye. Those against? Carried. 4.9, meeting schedule. 2020.
So this is your workload, part of your workload anyway, for 2020. We've tried to align the meetings so that the workload's spread out a wee bit. And just note that the Taupo East Rural Ward, we still need to just add the icon on the bottom there that was missed out on that report, so that will be done, and then this will be posted on the website. We'll also put all those meetings in your calendars as well.
Very good. Thank you very much. When do we call for registrations of interest on those?
So we're just working through that at the moment and hope to have the advert out this week.
Yes.
Closing probably around the 14th, 15th of January.
Okay, cool.
So that the appointments will be made for the first meetings in February.
No problem. Thank you very much. And obviously you want the attendance of the induction in that recommendation. Sorry, am I looking the right one? Oh, that's just the meeting schedule. Sorry, I've jumped the gun. You run ahead, sorry. Okay, recommendation there. Can I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Parks, seconded by Councillor Taylor. All those favour, please say aye. Those against. Right, next one, 4.10. Engagements in January.
So this is based on the fact that you were going to approve the previous item.
Yep.
And we can then advertise those in time.
Cool. Lovely. Thank you. And do you want to put the councillors' names in there? Who's going to the induction?
Yep. So Councillor Guy, Councillor Leonard, Councillor Williamson, Councillor Taylor, Councillor Westerman.
Cool. Got those, Shannon? You bit quick, wasn't it? Hey? You're pretty good. No typos, please. Lovely. Yes. Mrs. James said she's got it all under control. All right, could I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Taylor, seconded by Councillor Westman. Those in favour, please say aye. Those against? Carried. Very good. Thank you very much. That is the end of the public part of the meeting. And then we have, just to confirm, some minutes, private and confidential. All right, move into confidence. Sorry, moved by Councillor Truman, seconded by Councillor Williamson. Very good. How are we going, Lacey?